could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello everyone, today we're meeting Liam Naden. He's a teacher, a speaker, and an author. Hello Liam, thank you for joining us today.
Hi Anna, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to meet you and be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's start our conversation by looking into your personal journey of becoming the person you are today. So what led you to discover your true voice, true passion in life? How did you know that being a coach and a mentor and a teacher is something that you want to do in your life?
Well, it probably all really came about from what some people would call a disaster. And I guess it was a big lesson for me that in life there are no disasters. And often the thing that you don't want to happen, or the crisis, if you like, in your life turns out to be one of the best things, if not the best thing that ever happened to you. And certainly in my coaching, people tell me this all the time, you know, that, oh, that happened, but it was awful at the time, but I'm really glad it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And it was the same for me, because most of my life I've been studying success and trying to figure out how can I be the best version of myself, you know, and I studied all sorts of things. From a young child, I was brought up in a religious family and was told, you know, that's how you're successful. You pray to God and God will give you what you want, and that's how you can be happy. So, excuse me, that didn't quite work out for me. But anyway, I went on to a lot of different things. And, you know, when I was in my mid-40s, which wasn't that long ago, I went through this experience where I'd done pretty well. I'd been studying all of these different things about success and, you know, goal setting, motivation, personal development, spirituality, changing your thoughts and changing your subconscious mind and all of these things. And I was doing pretty well. I was actually a multi-millionaire, and I had several businesses, and I thought I was doing pretty well. But pretty well overnight, I lost everything, and I became homeless, and I had to move back in with my elderly mother and sleep on the sofa in her living room. And I thought, why has this all happened to me? Because I'm an expert on knowing how to be successful, knowing how to achieve goals, knowing how to think positively. But anyway, out of that whole experience, when my life sort of started to get back together, I noticed things were happening in quite a different way to how they had been going before. Because before I lost everything, I was a fanatic about success, if you like. You know, if there was ever a book or a seminar or a coaching program, if I thought that it could help me be more successful, you know, I literally traveled all over the world to seminars and read books and did everything I could and listened to subconscious subliminal recordings and meditated and did spirituality and all of these sorts of things. And that was all good. But what it meant was, you know, I was successful, but what I noticed was I had a lot of stress, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I had a lot of problems in my life. And I thought, because I'd heard that this was the truth, that problems and stress are a natural part of success. That if you want to be successful, if you want to have a great life, you're going to have to deal with problems. You're going to have to bust through all these barriers and work really hard and struggle and overcome all of these challenges. And I thought, oh, well, that's the price you pay. But after I lost everything, and I started to put my life back together, things started to go in quite a different direction. So I set up some new businesses, and one of the main ones was coaching. It was actually on marriage and relationships, which is what I do a lot of still. It's a big part of what I do. But what I found was things were happening in a much easier, smoother, and more enjoyable way. I was attracting, I mean, it sounds a bit, you know, out there to say I was attracting things, but something different was happening, because instead of chasing after success and having all these problems and struggle and stress, good things were happening to me, almost like coincidences or, just luck, if you like. And I noticed that I was becoming successful again. I was doing things that I wanted to do. I was earning money, the money I needed and wanted to do the things that I wanted to do. But I was a lot happier, and there was no stress. There were no problems. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I doing differently? I need to figure this out, not only for myself, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't stop doing what was working, but I thought maybe I can figure out how I can really help other people with this. Because all around me and in my marriage and relationship coaching that I was doing, I saw people were really struggling. And then I started to put some pieces together and discovered, again from my own experience too, that there was a different way that success really works. Well, not just success, but there's a different way your life works. And if you tap into how to use the way you're naturally designed to be, if you do it in a more natural way, your life goes in a much better direction. And so that's how I really got into this whole area of coaching and helping people understand that what really creates the results they get in their life, both good and bad, and how you can manage your life in a much better way. And funnily enough, it's nothing to do with goal setting. It's nothing to do with struggle. It's nothing to do with motivation. It's nothing to do with stress. It's all about using your natural resources, which are in your brain, the right way. So that's the short answer to your question as to how I got into this.
Yeah, and you just mentioned that you've had it all and then you lost it. So you kind of like came to that place where everything was gone, but still you were hopeful that you will kind of find a way to gain it back. But now it was a different way for you. Something changed, like you mentioned, and with you figure out a new approach of kind of like achieving that goal and building new businesses, it gave you a new look for life. And also like you wanted to bring it out for other people to know what is available out there and how they can design their life with resources that they have naturally within them. And I know you are the creator of a program that has to do with the way of how our brain works. And I just want to like go into some detail. If you could just explain what this program is all about and how people can maybe even some kind of tools they can use or some kind of practice they can do on a daily basis, maybe as a habit they can start with in order to set themselves for success.
Sure. Well, here's the thing to understand, and it's something that I had completely overlooked in all of my years of struggle and chasing after success and being frustrated with life. And I'm sure many of your listeners and your viewers are probably frustrated with life, and they're probably thinking, why isn't life going the way I want it to go? And why do I have problems? And why do I set these goals? And if I'm really honest, why do I hardly ever achieve my goals? And if I'm so motivated, is there a way to live that doesn't have the struggle and the stress? And can I ever finally be happy? And the thing I'd overlooked, and what most people overlooked, is the fact that we as human beings, we live in a biological, physical world. And that world has laws. There are laws of nature. And however nature is set up, if you go against that, you're never going to win. It's a bit like if you want to walk off a 10-story building, doesn't matter how motivated you are, how much you pray, how much you think you've changed your beliefs, you're going to fall to the ground. That's it. That's a law of nature. But there's another natural law about us and all biological organisms, if you like, all living things, which obviously include us, that we forget. And that is that everything biological on this planet has an overriding mechanism and purpose, which is to be the best that it can be so that it has the greatest chance for survival. because all of life is aiming to survive so that it can continue the species. So and if you look at anything in nature, in fact, if you look closely at the rest of nature, it's all perfect. Everything is perfectly in its place, doing what it's supposed to do. But there's this inbuilt mechanism or process to be the best that it can be. Now, the only species that is not the best that it can be overwhelmingly is us as human beings, because if you were to say to people, most people, do you think you're the best that you can be? Are you the happiest that you can be? Are you living to the best life that you can be? Most people say, if they said anything, they'd probably say, what are you on asking a question like that? But they'd probably say, well, of course I'm not happy. I've got all these problems and there's all these terrible things going on. And I've got all this stress and, you know, things that aren't in my control. So I thought, but why is that? Why are we not successful when biologically nature is set up to make every living thing successful? So it must be designed to make us successful as well. Why are we not? Why do we have these problems? And it turns out we've all been given a machine. Every living thing has got a machine which is like the mechanism that's designed to make that organism the best that it can be. And that machine is a brain. So every living thing has a brain which is sole function to ensure that that organism not only survives, but thrives and becomes the best that it can be. So we as humans have been given a brain that is designed for the same thing, to make us the best that we can be. And that includes being our happiest. Because when we're our happiest, that's when we're the best that we can be as well. That's when we have the greatest chance for survival and for thriving. But the thing is, your brain is a machine. So, and what that means is it works in a very predictable mechanical way. It's a bit like any other organ in your body. You know, lungs are designed to make you breathe, and they work in a particular way. And it's predictable. It's you know, that's just the way they're designed to work. So your brain is the same thing. It is designed to ensure that you are the best, or to strive to ensure that you are the best that you can be. But what's the thing about any machine? What happens when you don't use it the right way? What happens when it's operating properly? You end up with problems. It's a bit like a motor car. A motor car is a machine, you know, designed to get you from where you are to where you want to go. You know that's going to happen if you use it the right way. You know that's what it's designed to do. If you get in and you drive it the right way, it's going to get you there, and you don't have to worry about it or think about whether the engine's going to stop or anything like that. You know it's going to happen. It's designed to do that. But if you don't use it the right way, if you put the wrong fuel in, or if you keep the handbrake on when you're trying to drive at 100 miles an hour, or if you use it the wrong way, you're going to end up with problems, and you're not going to have an enjoyable ride. It's going to be stressful, and you probably won't get to where you want to go. And the car might blow up and have problems as well. So the biggest realization, and just really what I'm trying to explain, is the biggest realization people can have is to realize there is a biological machine. Your purpose biologically, like everything else, is to be the best that you can be. It's to be happy. It's to be doing the things that you love to do. All that gives you the greatest chance for survival. And if you're not, all you need to do is to learn how to use this machine the right way, get it operating the right way, and it will do its job that it's designed for. It will do it for you. It will give you the great life. And, you know, this is what the difference between my old life of stress and struggle and my new life. What I realized was the only difference, I was using my brain in a different way. And that allowed my brain to say, aha, well, at last I can get on and do my job of making you happy, giving you what you want, giving you a great life. So here's the practical application to all of that. So the first thing I think is to say, and this is what I teach in my coaching, is you've really got to understand how the brain works. And you don't need to know any great long technical, you don't need to do a master's degree or a PhD to understand how your brain works, because it's a natural thing. It's designed to work in a natural way. And the fact that 98% of people have problems, stress, and all of that sort of thing doesn't mean that's the way we're designed to live. It just means people have not been taught the right way to use this machine. So can I give you a quick practical thing? Because
Yes.
people are probably saying, well, this is all very well, but give me a quick fix. Tell me what to do right now.
Now, the thing is that you just mentioned is important for people to understand is to focus on that machine that we possess, which is our brain. And we know that if we should be bringing ourselves to the place where we feel happy. From that place we can operate more efficiently and achieve something that we trying to get in our life, not the other way around, because sometimes people think, okay, if I get there then I'll be happy. They got it backwards, and that's kind of like prevents them from getting there and also being the best they can be in the process, because they have to enjoy that process in order to kind of like achieve certain type of result that they're looking for. And with them bringing themselves first in a state of joy and happiness, that will be a foundation in order to get where you want to go by using natural laws and that type of mechanism that they have at their possession right now. So it's just something I want people to think about as of what is the foundation of everything to happen first. And of course, I want to know more into, like practical ways of getting that type of foundation established in order for us to move where we want to go. If you can just elaborate more on any type of, like kind of practical use of it in daily basis.
Sure. And everything you've just said is absolutely true. But what I what I help people with is to realize there's a biological proof to everything that you've said. Because some of the things that you just said about you have to be happy first before the right things can happen in your life, that's not just a good idea. That's not just a philosophical idea. That's a biological principle. That's how your brain works. And just to explain it very briefly, because just before I do, can I just make the point, people always say to me, okay, so what do I do then? This is all very good. But it's a little bit like, if you are a parent and your 12-year-old son comes along and says, Dad, can I borrow the car to go to a party tomorrow night? It's 100 miles away. And you would say to your son, well, what do you no, you can't borrow the car. You don't know how to drive it. You can't get to that party tomorrow night that's 100 miles away. You don't know how to drive the car. You need to have lessons. You need to do some practice. And firstly, you need to understand how the car works. You need to understand what the 2 or 3 things you need to do to get the car working are. And you need to understand that. And your son says, yeah, that's fine. Look, teach me later, but just give me a quick lesson now on the one thing I need to do to get me to the party tomorrow night. I'll learn about it later. I just want a quick fix. I just want the one, and you would say, it's ridiculous. There is no quick fix. You can't just learn one thing in 5 seconds and get to where you want to go and use the machine the right way. So it's exactly the same with the brain. What you need to do first, you need to understand it. There's no instant thing that's going to and I think one of the biggest problems we have today is people are wanting a quick fix. They want, tell me what to do right now to get rid of all my problems, and that's just not the way it works. It's like saying, tell me what I need to do, what pill I need to take right now that'll mean I lose weight. But anyway, just in general, the most important thing to realize based on what you said as well, and this will give people something to think about. You mentioned about being happy. Now, when you are happy, you unlock a different part of your brain. There are actually 4 parts to your brain. And these have all got scientific terms. They're all in different locations and they have different functions. Now, very briefly, you have a thinking brain, you have a feeling emotional brain, you have a survival brain, which looks after all your automatic functions. And traditionally, those are the 3 parts of the brain that science has focused on. But more recently, science has discovered there's a fourth part to your brain, and that's what I call the creative brain. And this is located very centrally in a couple of places right in the middle of your head. But that's the part of your brain that's supposed to be operating and designing your life. Now, remember, your brain is infinitely powerful. It has the power of 500 trillion computer microprocessors. That's the power your brain has, because your brain is designed to give you the best life possible. But it's not your thinking brain that does it. It's not your emotional brain. It's not your surviving brain. It's your creative brain. Your creative brain is where you get new ideas that you've never had before. It's where your imagination is. It's where your motivation is. It's where you get the idea, where you see an opportunity. Your creative brain is what brings you that opportunity and allows you to see it. And it gets you to act on it and gets you to not act on the things that aren't right for you. So this is happening in a very different place to where most people are trying to get their life to be happy, which is using their thinking brain. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure out, what should my goals be? What should I do? We're not designed to do that. That's not what the thinking brain is there for. It's the creative brain. And if you really think about it, here's something for your listeners to think about. All of the important events that have happened in your life, might be the person you marry, might be the career you end up having, the place you end up living. If you really think about that, most of the time, they just came out of nowhere. They weren't on your goals list. You didn't sit down the day before you met your husband or wife and said, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., I'm going to meet this person. This is what they're going to look like. And this is what... It's not the way it happens. So there is something else at work that's working on your life while you're busy setting goals that you never achieve or hardly ever do, while you're trying to figure out how to be happy. And even if you get what you think you want, you're still not happy. That's the wrong part of your brain. That's not the way your brain is designed to work. So the thing is, what you need to do is learn how to activate this creative brain most of the time, if not all of the time, but pretty well most of the time. That's the part you want to be driving your life. And when you do that, that's when you attract success. That's when you get in the flow. It's sometimes called being in the zone, being in the flow of life. And because one of the other principles, laws of life, is the law of least resistance. If you look at anything, where it goes is where there is least resistance. It flows. And that's how you want to be in your life, not resisting, but allowing your life to go in the right direction. And then you see the opportunities and you act on them, and it works. You make the right decisions. You come up with the right ideas. This is all how you're supposed to be living, because it's you being the best that you can be. It's when you're feeling passionate, loving, grateful, creative. That's the way you're supposed to be. But here's the other thing. So people say, well, how do I activate that creative part of my brain? Well, the way to do that is to realize what blocks it. There's only one thing that blocks it, and that's fear. When you feel fear, anxiety, stress, worry, you actually shut down that part of your brain. This is happening on a biological level. And if we had more time, I'd explain why. But basically why it does this, because this is good for what it's for. So if you're feeling afraid, stressed, worried about what you should do, worried about the future, trying to figure it out, thinking I need to read another book and set more goals and work harder, you're not understanding how your brain actually works, because you're actually blocking the part of your brain that will do all of that work for you, that will show you the right things to do. So the most important thing, if you want to improve your life, if you want to activate the creative part of your brain that's designed to make you the best you can be, you have to start looking at what is blocking that part of your brain for operating, which is, what are the things that are making you feel bad? What's making you feel afraid, stressed, worried, anxious? Remember, it talks about this in the Bible. It says, do not worry about tomorrow. Do not be afraid. Do not worry about what you shall eat, drink, or wear. It'll all be provided for you. It's your creative brain that will provide it for you. So don't worry about it. Be not afraid. Just trust, believe, have faith. And it's saying that because how your brain works is when you feel fear, stress, worry, anxiety, you block off your creative brain. And in my coaching, I teach this in a lot more detail, because when people really understand this, they realize it's like saying, I don't know how to drive a car, but if I get out from behind and push and put in all my energy and motivation and determination and changing my beliefs and praying, somehow that's the way the car will get me to where I want to go. That's what it's, but that's crazy, isn't it? But it all comes down because you think, well, when you learn how to drive a car, you think that's not the way to do it. It's not supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be an enjoyable ride. So what I teach people is how to, the more you can understand how this actually works, the more you're going to say, why was I doing it any other way? Why have I been using the wrong part of my brain? You know, and the whole fear thing, people say, oh, I've got too many problems and I've got too much stress and there's too much to be afraid of. The world's going to end tomorrow and, you know, the economy. Look, whatever it is, on a biological level, if you're activating the wrong part of your brain through fear, you haven't got a show of creating the life you want. That's what you need to deal with.
Right. And I think a lot of people, they just stress and, you know, being afraid of unknown mostly. And they think they got it under control. And the more they kind of like think hard or struggle, the more they gain like control over the situation and get a result, which is not the way it works. As you just mentioned, they created more stress and pressure on them, and blocking that type of, or that kind of the brain part that we need to design our life. We need to be our best. And with us kind of like prioritizing our mental health and knowing that we need to find a way to de-stress, to relax, to kind of let go of all that fear and anxiety and make it a practice every single day. Either it's meditation or, you know, whatever works for you to release that stress, and know that it's vital for your own success. You have to bring yourself to the place where you feel the best that you can be. And with knowing that this is our focus, and that's what we can do from our end to give ourselves the opportunity to be the best that we can. And what we can do is just find that happy place. Again, like maybe it sounds, you know, unrealistic for some people, but it's the way we can operate.
Well, I have a process that I teach called Neuro-State Rebalancing. And what that actually is, sort of what it sounds like, it rebalances your brain. Because a lot of things that you are afraid of and that make you feel bad, it's not you that's afraid of them, or it's making you, it's your brain. Your brain has been wired, if you like, or conditioned to make you feel bad about certain things. So through neurostate rebalancing, you teach your brain the truth, which is actually there is very little to be afraid of in your life, if anything. And you know, if you really think about for most people right now, if they're feeling stressed, what are you afraid of? Most people don't know, but they're worried, oh, I won't achieve this, and therefore, and what? So through neurostate rebalancing, what I actually show people, well, how it works is to show people, firstly, what they're afraid of, their subconscious fears. It reveals that to them. And then it gets your brain actually dealing with those so that you stop being afraid. Because again, this isn't just an idea about not being afraid. It's a little bit like if someone came along to you and said, here's a glass of hydrochloric acid and I want you to drink it. And you would say to them, well, what? No, what are you talking about? And they say, look, I'll give you $1 million if you drink it. And here's even better. You might think it's not good for you, but it is good for you. And if you pray and if you're really motivated and you say, look, I don't care what justification you're going to give me, I just know that it's not going to do me any good if I drink it. And that's the same with fear. You know, so that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But if you understand the biological effect that fear has on your brain, that it switches your brain state from away from the part that actually is designed to manage your life, if you knew that on a practical and biological level, you would find you wouldn't make justifications or excuses for feeling afraid. You would just say, and this is what I do with people, what do I need to get rid of to stop me activating the wrong part of my brain? Because it's taking me in the opposite direction when I do, on a purely biological level. Remember, it's just a machine. This is the way it operates. It doesn't matter how much you want it to operate differently, or how much you want to get out from behind and push it. That's not the way it's designed to work. So this is really vitally important. And again, it's like a car. If someone comes to you and says, I want to learn how to drive a car because I want to go on long trips, you'd say, okay, well, you need to learn a few things. I can't just give you a 1-minute tip on what to do. But it is mechanical, it's predictable, and it's because that's why it's designed to work.
Yes, and also I think a lot of times fears and anxiety, it's something that just not real. It's like an illusion in our mind where we come up with those different scenarios that, something can go wrong, or something that we think, it's not good for us. So we kind of like create that feeling within ourselves. We are the ones that can stop it as well. With understanding, you just mentioned, like if you just look into what exactly giving you that feeling, what do you feel scared or anxious or stressed? And if you can just remove certain, barriers and stop yourself like from experiencing that, and it will give you more of a different way of looking at life, and also like that new feeling of release. And now, like if you are more happy and ready to explore, maybe that's where you want to be. And with you shifting that mindset and seeing things differently, it will bring you a different result in the end. And also like understanding how to operate the machine. That's the most important part of it. And knowing that is just the way it works. You just need to accept that fact. It's just a fact. This is a law, and I need to go along with what's working. If I know that for sure, why would I block myself from achieving that success? If that's the only person that will block is me, so I'm the one that could unblock it. I'm the one who could let myself go to that next level. Why don't I take control and do something about it?
That's right. And the only thing, people talk about faith. I don't think there is any such thing as faith. I think a better word for it is understanding. When you understand something, how it works, you wouldn't say you have faith. For instance, your heart is going to carry on beating. Your lungs are going to keep breathing. The sun is going to rise tomorrow morning. Would you say that this was faith, or do you just say, well, I don't need to believe it, it's just the way things work? But when we come to our life, we think we need to have this blind faith that, I'm going to believe even though I don't know how it works. But when you do know how it works, that's when you release all the worry, the fear and stress. Because faith on its own is like, you're still worried, I'm not sure, I don't know how it works, so therefore, I'm going to really try and believe. I don't really, but I'm going to try and trust. Because if you really did trust, you wouldn't get stressed anyway, because you don't know how the process works. So I think there's a big difference between, this is where it's really important to realize that it's a machine, that you can understand it. And when you do understand it, you don't need to believe it. You just, it's like your car. You don't need to believe that your car is going to drive. You just know that's how that's what it does. And that's what I found with people, certainly what happened for me as well. That's a really empowering thing, is understanding. And that's why it's so important to try and understand. And the good thing is, certainly what I've created in a coaching program, this is not complicated. I haven't thrown in a whole lot of scientific and technical words to describe it, but it is exactly how it works. It's and the Bible, as I mentioned, that's a success manual for how to use your brain the right way. It's an instruction manual. It says, don't be afraid, give no thought for tomorrow, do not be afraid about what you will, do not worry. And it's not saying that because it's a nice idea, that's an instruction. It's saying when you do that, you activate your creative brain. When you feel fear, you activate the wrong part of your brain and you block your creative brain. And it's your creative brain that is there to give you the best experience of life possible. It's what it's designed to do.
Yes, and I think it will be beneficial for people to start thinking about it with the right way of approaching things and getting yourself to the place where you can be your best, and also, you know, having that mentality of bringing yourself to the place where you de-stress, when you're relaxed, when you're open to opportunities, where you have faith that it's going to work for you. You just know it and you understand the mechanism how to get there. And that's what's important to focus on, and knowing that all of the negative type of feelings, all of the stress, struggle, anxiety, fear, it's not what we're supposed to be feeling all the time. It's not why we're here. It's not our purpose. And we just need to find a way to let it go. And with that in mind, knowing that this is the priority for you to feel good, this is what your part is. Just know your part and you will, you know, unlock something else along the way once you go there. I think that will give people like more to look forward to. And I want them to also explore more of that, you know, the Neuro-State Rebalancing program that you just mentioned, and I will include that in episode description as well, so they can go on the website and see, and also maybe find tools in terms of coaching, and maybe having somebody who help them to release that stress if they cannot do it themselves. You know, sometimes people need that help to get there. But yeah, so that's something I wanted to kind of like highlight, and thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. It was very very important information for every one of us, and we always learn something new. But I'm glad that we had time in the conversation today. I hope you enjoy your day. And if any last advice that you want to give to people?
No, thank you very much for having me on your show. But just, I think people need to realize we are biological. Mm-hmm. The way our brain works, it's a biological machine. Its job is to make you the best you can be. If you're not being the best you can be, you're not using the machine the right way. You're not following the right biological process. And it's simply a question of learning how to use it the right way. And the fact that nobody else is using it the right way doesn't mean that what everybody's doing is right, you know, because in the whole of nature, problems are a sign that something's not right, that something's not operating the right way. And that's the way you're designed. So I really would encourage people to say, just like, you know, people know more about how to drive their car than they do about how to drive their life, their brain. But the brain is a far more powerful machine.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.